Hello everyone, welcome to this week's episode of Wehry Weekly History and Entertainment News. Bigger entertainment events and venues may not be open yet, but there are still plenty of smaller events to take place in Berkshire County. On this week's episode, I'll be discussing some of the art museums and the displays that they plan on showing in 2021. Also, it's a good time for a safe road trip. So I'll be taking you to one of the most famous halls of fame in America, along with another history of a town in Berkshire County. In this case, it will be that of Great Barrington. First, it's time for this week's trivia question, which will be answered during our Great Barrington History segment. This week's question is, which influential baseball player turned author made a home in Great Barrington? Now, for this week's local entertainment headlines. Effective January 26th, Governor Charlie Baker and the state of Massachusetts have lifted an overnight stay-at-home advisory and early business closure orders. Businesses that may now remain open past 9:30 include restaurants, arcades, movie theaters, casinos, gyms, museums, and more. The state is slowly improving its COVID numbers, as they have gone down slightly. This is partially due to the fact that people in Massachusetts stayed home during the Christmas break. With that said, the state will continue to have 25% capacity limits and lower gathering limits until February 8th. The COVID situation is always changing, so visit mass.gov/COVID vaccine for more information or maimmunizations.org to book for the vaccine clinic at BCC or in Great Barrington or North Adams, ages 75 years or older. Please be patient, as on some days they can be extremely backed up. A Drury High School graduate is hoping to bring his long-awaited dream of movie making to life, and you can help this become a reality. Nick Bouchard, who graduated from Drury in 2017, is directing the horror movie The Uncredited. It follows a young woman who appears in an independent film. While watching it, her friends notice something disturbing in the background of her scene. This leads to rumors and distrust in even her closest group of friends. In an interview with iBerkshires.com, Bouchard said, quote, "My goal is to make great characters, and even though it's a spooky thriller, the characters are just friends sitting down to watch a movie together. They crack jokes, roast each other, and are all collectively trying to have a good time. But that's juxtaposed with the realization that one of them might be hiding something. That creates the thriller edge to this. I think it's really fun," end quote. This film is being produced by his Tiny Viking Productions, along with Sansa Spiller and Casey Ray of Skylar Productions of New York City. The Uncredited will be filmed in North Adams in the spring of 2021, provided they can receive enough funding and COVID-19 rules. The project is being crowdfunded on the website shown here. As of now, the company has raised over $8,000 for production. Visit the website for more information and donations. The Clark Art Museum in Williamstown is featuring a new year-long exhibition highlighting the work of contemporary artist Aaron Sharif. Sharif was born in Kelowna, British Columbia, and lives in Montreal. She consistently works between photography, sculpture, and video to explore the relationship between objects and their representations. Aaron Sharif Reminders presents photographs, print, and video that examine her fascination with the myth-making behind art history. through a practice that spans analog and digital media, 2 and 3 dimensions, and still and moving images. Her work has been shown at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art, in various museums in Boston, and more. Erin Sharif Reminders is currently on view at the Clark Art Museum, specifically in public spaces in the Lower Clark Center and the reading room of the Manton Research Center through January 2nd, 2022. Tickets to the Clark Art Museum cost $20 for non-members and are free for members. Additionally, on March 10th at 12:30 p.m., Sharif will be speaking in a live Zoom presentation to discuss her practice and the works on view at the Clark. Advanced registration for this event is required. Visit the Clark Arts website for more information. Keeping on the topic of new art exhibits, the MoCA in North Adams has 2 exhibits planned to debut in 2021. The first new exhibit is Glenn Cayano's In the Light of a Shadow. This deals with 3 years and how similar racial protests were, 1965, 1972, with a focus on Ireland, and 2020. This project started last year with the sculpture of a circular arrangement of metal bars. It was a type of wall that Cayano had envisioned, quote, had bent upon itself into a circle, a device that once separated, now connected, but problematically so, end quote. Each bar is sectioned into varying lengths to play a specific musical note when hit with a baton. Struck in sequence, the bars play the guitar track from U2's Sunday Bloody Sunday. Cayano transforms the barrier into an instrument that gives voice through a powerful piece of music. This instrument serves as a backdrop for how hope can be found even in the darkest moments. In the Light of a Shadow is scheduled to open sometime in March. The second exhibit is Close to You, a series of artwork by painters dealing with kinship. Close to You focuses on LGBT framing of kinship, in which bonds are forged through affinity and free will. The artists in the exhibition make works that recognize the intimate relationships we form with people, as well as the deep connections we feel with places, objects, and histories. Close to You is scheduled to open in April. MoCA is open Thursdays through Mondays from 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. Please note that the first hour on Thursdays and Sundays is reserved for those over 65 or the immunocompromised. Tickets cost $20 for adults, $18 for seniors and veterans, $12 for college students with an ID, $8 for kids ages 6 through 16, and are free for children below the age of 6. Museum tours are currently suspended. If you're interested in the work of Edith Wharton, the Mount in Lenox is presenting a unique presentation of her work on February 11th. At Edith's table, we'll discuss how food and dining are represented in Wharton's major fiction and memoir work. Attendees will get a sense of how Wharton used food and dining to convey character and background in passages from some of her most memorable works. Writer and food historian Carl Raymond will present examples from Wharton's own life, including food memories from her childhood, as well as insight into how she designed her own dining rooms, and her thoughts on entertaining as a whole. At Edith's Table will be taking place on February 11th from 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Tickets cost $20 for general admission and $15 for members of the Mount. Visit the Mount's website for more information. Now time for a road trip to Springfield. On this episode, we'll be visiting the Basketball Hall of Fame, which is located at 1000 Hall of Fame Ave, approximately an hour from Pittsfield and 1.5 hours from North Adams. Basketball was invented by Dr. James Naismith in 1891 in Springfield, and today it is one of the most popular sports in the world. The Basketball Hall of Fame was established in 1959. At the time, it was located at Springfield College. It has been moved several times, but it is now established in its current location. Today, the Hall of Fame is approximately 40,000 square feet of basketball history, with nearly 400 players, coaches, teams, and contributors inducted. Almost 200,000 people visit the Hall of Fame each year. The museum underwent major renovations in 2019, allowing for a more hands-on experience, with new exhibits focused on basketball in the 21st century. The Hall of Fame is open Thursdays through Sundays for 2-hour time slots starting at 11 a.m. or 1 p.m. You can buy tickets either at the Hall of Fame's website at hoophall.com or by visiting your local Big Y store. Please note that ticket prices vary at each location. There are many rules and regulations for the Hall of Fame under COVID-19. For instance, masks must be worn at all times. There are designated foot traffic patterns that guests must follow, and guests are also asked to pay with credit cards, debit cards, or pre-purchase their tickets online. The museum prides itself on touchscreen exhibits and is keeping those open. However, when you check in, you will receive a complimentary stylus pen for all touchscreens. Visit hoophall.com/COVID-19 for the full list of rules and regulations. Also, heads up for the future. You might want to avoid the weeks of May 13th and September 9th, as those will be enshrinement weekends when new members are honored. The reason for the 2 enshrinement ceremonies this year are because of the cancellation of the 2020 induction ceremony due to COVID. It's now time for this week's history segment, and we'll be continuing our tour of Berkshire County's cities and towns with the trip to Great Barrington. It currently has a population of just over 7,000 people, making it small enough for a town, but large enough for some unique personalities and history. There are many similarities between this town and that of Stockbridge, which I discussed on my last episode. In the early 18th century, the area where Great Barrington is currently located was named Wehry by Mohican tribes. If you recall, I discussed Mohican tribes in my last episode. The name Wehry means the place downstream, and eventually regained some popularity in Great Barrington when a famed theater, which has been mentioned quite a few times here on WWHEN, took the name. On April 25th, 1724, Captain John Ashley of Westfield bought land in western Massachusetts. This land not only contained the future town of Great Barrington, but that of Sheffield, Egremont, Alford, and Mount Washington. The village of Great Barrington was first settled by colonists 2 years later, and in 1761 it was officially incorporated as Great Barrington. It is named after the small parish town, population 205 people, of Barrington in Gloucestershire, England. During the Revolutionary War, famed military general Henry Knox passed through Great Barrington while leading his troops to Boston. Knox's wartime heroics led to an agricultural interest in Great Barrington. With the arrival of the railroad in the late 19th century, Great Barrington, like Lenox and Stockbridge before it, developed into a Gilded Age resort community for those seeking relief from the heat and pollution of cities. This was one of three in the Berkshire Cottage Triangle. Among the earliest estates was that built by banker, industrialist, art patron, and developer of the Housatonic Railroad, David Leavitt. He built an elaborate 300-acre estate in the mid-19th century. Another famed design was the Surrealist Castle. It was designed by Stanford White in 1888 and took up 200 acres of square space. Eventually, it became a boarding school. Numerous well-known people have been born in Great Barrington. W.E.B. Du Bois, an African-American academic and civil rights activist, was one of those people. He was born in 1868 near the present Route 23 and attended the Congregational Church of Great Barrington. Right before attending college, Congregational Church members donated the funds that Du Bois needed to attend Fisk University. He eventually co-founded the NAACP in 1909. Today, the W.E.B. Du Bois home site is located on 612 South Egremont Road, and visitors can learn about his childhood and the accomplishments that he achieved. Other famous natives of Great Barrington include blind American poet Cynthia Roberts Gorton, actress Karen Allen, best known for her role in the Indiana Jones franchise. She also teaches acting classes at Bard College at Simon's Rock. Engineer/explorer/inventor Franklin Leonard Pope, and U.S. Congressman Mark Sibley, among others. Great Barrington is the largest town in the Berkshire Hills Regional School District. As mentioned in my last episode, it includes Stockbridge, but also West Stockbridge, Housatonic, Glendale, and Interlaken. Great Barrington is the location and hub for all three schools in the region. The reason for this is due to regionalization, as discussed last week. Here's a reminder of regionalization and the Berkshire Hills Regional School District. In 1956, Great Barrington began discussions with Lenox, Lee, and Stockbridge about regionalizing. Lenox and Lee eventually dropped out of the conversation. The next few years brought major tension, as voters could not decide on consolidation. In September 1963, Stockbridge voters overwhelmingly decided to build a new location for Williams High School. A site was established and the town was ready to build. However, efforts to maintain a high school in Stockbridge ended when the state of Massachusetts refused to provide the necessary funds to support the effort. Stockbridge and Great Barrington then approved a plan to enter a consolidated district called the Berkshire Hills Regional School District. The elementary school in this district is named Moneybrook Elementary School and was established in 1960. The middle school is Du Bois Regional Middle School. Until last year, it was just known as Monument Valley Regional Middle School, but a controversial and interesting discussion in the town led to change. Now it is named after the civil rights activist mentioned earlier, W.E.B. Du Bois. The high school is Monument Mountain Regional High School. It opened in 1968 when the former Surrealist High School in Great Barrington and Williams High School in Stockbridge merged. Great Barrington also has a college called Bard College at Simon's Rock. If you are curious about this college, which is one of the most unique ones in the country, make sure to watch my August 18th, 2020 WWHCN on YouTube. It's now time for this week's trivia question. As a reminder, this week's question was, which influential baseball player turned author made a home in Great Barrington? The answer is Jim Button. Button played 16 seasons in the major leagues from 1962 to 1978. His career record was pretty average, 62 wins and 63 losses. He did end up winning a World Series in 1962 and was named an All-Star in 1963. However, he is more famous as an author. In 1970, he published the novel Ball 4. This was an honest, frank look at the off-the-field life of baseball players, including controversial topics such as drug use by ball players, Button included. He managed to anger many people involved in baseball, and then Commissioner Bowie Kuhn stated that Ball 4 was, quote, detrimental to baseball, end quote, even attempting to force Button to sign a statement that the book was fictional. Button refused. He eventually moved to Berkshire County area, settling in Great Barrington. Always a controversial figure, he then wrote the book Foul Ball in 2003, about his failed attempts to make Wahconah Park a stadium for a professional team. Button passed away in 2019 after a series of strokes. That ends this week's episode of Wehry Weekly History and Entertainment News. You can watch this week's episode on channel 1301 of PCTV, CTSB TV, and NBCTC. Air times on all three of these networks vary. Visit the websites shown here for more information. Also, if you would like to see the episodes in HD quality, make sure to check out my YouTube page at RT Wehry. Thank you.